What's going on, y'all? It's JD Piquel. Today on the Hard Count, we're going to talk about how South Carolina should manage Spencer Rattler. Welcome into the Hard Count, the People's Show. For every single thing that you know and that you love about college football, it happens here on a daily basis. Nick Brake doing the heavy lifting. You can help drive the show by subscribing to the channel. Also on podcast at Apple. We're also on Spotify. Wherever you get your podcast, you can listen to the Hard Count. South Carolina was a team that popped in 2021. I believe the over-under win total for them coming into last season was 3. They won 7. So Shane Beamer, in his first year, did a lot of really good things at South Carolina. Oh, by the way, they did it with a revolving door at quarterback. If you got a jersey on media day, you probably had a chance to play quarterback at South Carolina. That's not a knock on the program. That's a credit to Shane Beamer, a credit to this locker room, and a credit to that offensive staff and Marcus Satterfield for being able to, let's just call it what it is, being able to do more with less. Now, the portal exists, so South Carolina says, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and try our luck and see if we can get ourselves a quarterback from the portal. One thing leads to another, and they come out of the portal with Spencer Rattler. Former preseason #1 pick, preseason Heisman Trophy winner, preseason All-American. One thing leads to another for him at Oklahoma, ends up losing his job in the Red River rivalry, graduates, hits the portal, and now he's at South Carolina. And there is a lot of excitement, and for good reason, because we've talked about it on this show, but if you're South Carolina to win 7 games with virtually no quarterback on your roster, you add in a guy like Spencer Rattler, and just his sheer ability brings so much excitement for what you could potentially be this coming year in 2022. So I'm going to talk about how do I think South Carolina needs to manage Spencer Rattler. And manage probably has a negative connotation. I assure you it's not a negative thing. Whether you have a gunslinger or you have a game manager, you have to set some parameters for your quarterback. I don't care who's back there. And Spencer Rattler, by nature of his history, I think would do well to get some parameters from Marcus Satterfield. So, in my humble opinion, I think you need to allow Spencer Rattler to have a lot of quick game in this offense. And that's sort of something that Marcus Satterfield is going to implement. It's not going to be West Coast in nature, but to sum it all up, to give you the broadest strokes of what I think you need to have in quick game for Spencer Rattler, give him easy access throws. Give him throws to where it's 3-step drop, 1, 2, ball is out. We're not taking a 5-step in a hitch, looking around, having to get from one side of the field all the way to the other and check back to our check down. There's a time for that. Don't get it twisted. They're going to have to call that at some point this season. But when it comes to the bread and butter, let him do what he does. Process the defense quick, get it to those playmakers because they got a lot of them. Dak Joyner, stud. Jaheim Bell, absolute freak show. He's one of my breakout players in 2022. And so for Spencer Rattler, do what you're supposed to do at quarterback and equip him to do what he's supposed to do at quarterback. Don't make simple things complicated. That's the first thing. And I think ultimately what that does is it, 1, builds your confidence because you have a lot of completions. 2, you get more comfortable because you're getting into a rhythm. The offense is flowing. You're moving the chains. Good things happen when you have a confident and comfortable quarterback. Quick game for Spencer Rattler, a lot of quick game is only going to cater to that. I also think for South Carolina, you need to feed your backs. That's only going to help Spencer Rattler. And this is probably something that you could say for any quarterback across the country is feed the running backs. It helps the quarterback. But South Carolina ran the ball right around 55% of the time last year. I think you probably need to be right around that number again this year, even with an improvement at quarterback. Because you got Marshawn Lloyd, who needs to see the football, a guy they're really excited about in Columbia. And also Christian Beal-Smith, a guy who for his career is right around 4.5 yards a carry. Both those dudes, if they're not seeing a healthy amount of the football, you're probably doing a disservice to your offense. Even more so, the defense is then able to key on the pass if you're not committing to the run. And if you do commit to the run and you're successful, well, then that opens up things downfield. Then you can get out of the quick game, do some play action, and hit your speedsters downfield. Then you can start to have those explosive plays. But when the defense is able just to sit back on their heels and say, we're not even worried about you running the football, forget about it. Then it makes it hard on your quarterback because I got 8 people back in coverage every single play. Coach, it's hard to complete passes. We got 8 guys in coverage. That's when you start to force the ball. That's when you start to make too much happen. We'll get to that, but that's ultimately what I think you need to steer clear of for Spencer Rattler. Give him help with this run game. You got some backs. Feed them. Horses aren't meant to stay in the stable. Let those dudes run. Finally, and this is more of an opinion for me than it is what I think is necessarily a staple of the offense, but for Spencer Rattler, he's a good athlete. He also has made it a point in the offseason to add some weight to live up to a little bit more of a beating in the SEC. I would say mix in some run game for Spencer Rattler. To me, a dual threat quarterback, which I would say Spencer Rattler has dual threat capabilities. I don't know if he's a dual threat specifically, but for a guy like Spencer Rattler and for quarterbacks in general that can run, when you're able to, one, take a few hits, it sort of gets you into the flow of the game. But also, if you're able to run effectively, that just lets the rest of your game flow from that ability. It's like if you get a basketball player who is a good shooter but also a good defender. I promise you, when that player plays good defense, gets a few steals, gets a few things going, that shot's going to start to fall. Same thing for Spencer Rattler. Use him on the zone read. You don't have to be design quarterback runs, but get him a read option where you can read that defensive end. Let him tuck it a few times. Let him pick up a 7-8 yard gain. Shoot, you get in the red zone, let him get in the end zone. That's only going to build confidence, only going to allow him to feel more and more comfortable into the flow of the game, which I think is crucial for Spencer Rattler and crucial for South Carolina for their success in 2022. And finally, this is something we have harped on throughout the existence of this show, something Shane Beamer actually said at SEC Media Day, so credit to him. Spencer Rattler needs to know he does not have to be Superman for South Carolina. Those are the exact words, actually, that Shane Beamer said. We told him he doesn't need to be Superman. That needs to be the theme throughout the year. Because when you feel pressure as a quarterback, that leads to trying to do too much. When you try to do too much and press, leads to poor decisions. When you make poor decisions, that leads to turnovers, which leads to your team losing games. South Carolina has a lot on this roster. They have a quarterback with a lot of ability. Don't overcomplicate it. Allow him to get the ball to playmakers, allow him to work, and allow this system to come to him. I'm excited to see it. So that's it for us here on The Hard Count. We appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at JD Pakel. We are going to keep the party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.